Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Derek Mon, and today I'm going to show you Piaget's latest Piaget Polo Skeleton. This year, they're doing it in true Piaget fashion, which is ultra thin. Let's jump right in. The Piaget Polo collection originally started in the late 1970s, and as a major player in the watch and jewelry industry, Piaget was entering this segment. Now, there's a huge growing demand for luxury sports watches, from all these famous other watches that launched during the time. And now this latest version of the Polo Skeleton is based off the latest iteration that was launched in 2016, which I actually have here. Excuse the scratches because this is actually my own personal piece. I've been wearing it since it launched then. And at this time, it launched in a blue dial, a gray dial, and a silver or white dial for 3 hands with date. And it also came with a chronograph version. And now in 2021, Piaget is doing the best of what it can do, combining its ultra thin movements and putting it into the Piaget Polo S body. Let's take a closer look. So this new Piaget Polo Skeleton is similar to its predecessor in its 42mm sizing, but with a whopping 6.5mm of thickness. So it's actually reduced its thickness from its standard time date version by an additional 3mm. And with its cushion-shaped case, it actually hugs my 6.4-inch wrist really nicely, even though the lug-to-lug, including the bracelet flare, is around 51mm or let's say 47mm lug-to-lug if you swap it onto its strap. The bracelet integrates into the case with a blend of high polish and brush polish center links, and when I measured between the lugs, it was a 20mm, so there's a very slight taper just where the bracelet starts, and then as it goes down into the clasp. Overall though, it's very comfortable on the wrist, and I love its presence on my wrist because I'll be honest, I thought this watch was going to wear a little bit too large for me, and honestly, I think it fits great. Now, speaking of straps, Piaget has developed a quick and simple way to change the bracelet to a strap with their quick release system, which can be done in a few seconds. All you have to do is go ahead and pinch these 2 quick release spring bars, and voila, you can actually take off the bracelet in just a few seconds. And now I can change it onto a strap. And I think more brands should develop this kind of system because it really makes changing straps and bracelets on the fly really easy. So if you want to change the lookup of your watch, it's super easy to do that. Now the cushion-shaped case has a great blend of brush and high polish finishes, where most of the watch has a brush finish, for example, all over the bezel and also on the case sides. But it also allows you to focus more on the detailing of the skeletonized movement and dial by putting more brush polish on the case sides. So when you look into the watch, you can actually see that it does not have a running ticking seconds, which is actually a good thing here. My guess is that with the running seconds, it would have added yet another layer of thickness to the overall watch movement. And with the skeleton dial, it is just more legible with just the hours and minutes, since you can actually see the escapement running through the back from the front side of the watch. So the Piaget Polo collection in general is designed as a go anywhere, do anything watch, with this category in general is super popular as a luxury sports watch because it's a versatility of being able to have a leisurely lifestyle and also looking great in dressier clothing. The only drawback to this specific model is with the skeletonized movement, it had to reduce its water resistance down to 3 bar, which is just splash resistance, as opposed to the standard Polo S, which has a 10 bar water resistance. So I definitely would not bring this specific version into the pool. But the best parts of the Polo Skeleton comes in its dial work and also its movement. So there's 2 versions. There is a slate gray version, but the one I have here today is a Piaget blue version. And I actually like this one better just because it has better legibility, since there is a stronger contrast between the applied and multifaceted hour markers and the blue architecture of the minute track and the framework of the movement. Now, when you look at the skeletonized dial, it is remarkably done and arranged. Each of the hour markers are applied to this chapter ring so that the minutes and hour markers have this kind of 3D effect, and it kind of looks like teeth surrounding the mechanical jaws of the watch. And if you look beyond just the simple time functions, then you can see the barrel near 12 o'clock. And watching that curl and store energy as you wind the crown is super cool, since most barrels are closed and not visible to the wearer. I also like that this only has the running hours and minutes. And now when you flip the watch over, you'll be able to see the skeletonized 1200S movement. And if I were actually to wear this, I would definitely want to wear it with the case back facing up, because that's where you really get to see Piaget's finishing. You get to see it in the gear train, in the micro rotor, and the regulator. And the reason here for a micro rotor is super smart, because if they had a regular rotor on top, it would have added an additional millimeters of height to the movement. But in order to keep the watch ultra thin and continue that tradition, they added a micro rotor offset to the side so it doesn't add additional height, but still able to put out the same energy input into the movement. And whether you're new or old to the watch game, I think you'd find the skeletonized movement impressive and stunning work from Piaget. The 1200S skeleton movement, as mentioned, is normally in precious metal watches such as the Altiplano, so it is nice to see it for the first time in the stainless steel version. And the watch has a power reserve of 44 hours, which could seem quite minimum, but then you have to consider that it's beating at 3 Hz or 21,600 VPH. Normal beat rates are at 4 Hz normally, so we can imagine that if this had that normal beat rate, it would have probably even less, maybe 36 hours of power reserve. But if you think about it, again, this is just another smart way that Piaget found to keep the watch thin and produce a rough 2-day power reserve without overloading the movement with additional height, which I find brilliant. Here are my final thoughts on the Piaget Polo Skeleton. So throughout this entire video, I've been talking about how what Piaget has done here is not just created a skeleton dial, but what they did is create a skeletonized movement. What I mean is Piaget already had the blueprints to the cushion case of the Polo collection and also the blueprints for the 1200S movement. But what they had to do was adapt that movement to the case. So here the function follows the form. And that's why there's a lack of a seconds hand, because that would add more thickness to the height. There's no date window, and it's a very pure, ultra thin expression of high level watchmaking. You can also see that with the crystal being super flat, the watch wears really well on the wrist. And that just adds to the story of being a luxury steel sports watch. It's supposed to be kind of minimal and just like something you wear and forget about, but done in such a high level and beautiful way. At the time of filming this watch is priced at $28,500. And what you get in return is a stainless steel watch, luxury sports package with an ultra thin, beautiful 1200S movement. Thanks so much for joining today and watching this video on the Piaget Polo Skeleton. If you're new here, please subscribe to this channel. Here at Carrot & Co, we love talking about watches. And if you love watches too, please follow us so you can see more content about it. Like this video if you like the Piaget Polo Skeleton as much as I do, because I think it's an awesome watch. And leave a comment below on some of your thoughts on this piece. It's been a minute, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.